What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing amazing. And in today's video, I am going to share with you why I chose Mexico as a home base instead of Europe. Let's go. So if you are new to this channel, welcome back. My name is Salua and I am a digital entrepreneur, remote worker, and I teach freedom seekers how to start an online business so they can earn money online and they can have the freedom to work from anywhere. In this video, I'm going to share with you why I chose Mexico as my home base, and I'm currently back in Europe, in the countryside of Europe. This is so quiet. Look at this. Today we have a beautiful, beautiful weather, and I'm walking around with my Mexican poncho. Before I go ahead and share the pros and cons, which I'm gonna do in a second, I want to let you know a little bit about my story. I was raised in Europe, so we're gonna remove the fact that it's very difficult for most Americans to get their residency in Europe. I don't have that challenge, and yet I still decided to base myself in Mexico rather than Europe. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you must know that I'm originally from Morocco. I was born there and I was very young when my mom and I moved to Belgium. So Belgium is my country. This is the country I grew up in. I speak French. Je parle très bien le français. Le français, c'est ma première langue. And then I did all my education in Belgium. And thanks to Belgium, I had the opportunity to get a passport and to travel the world. So I'm super grateful for Belgium because it really is my country. My family is here. My friends are here. And I travel here every year. So there's no questions that for me, home is Belgium, but so is Morocco, and so is the US. So when you have different identities, or maybe none, like myself, you don't have that much attachment with a specific country. And so I think this is important because a lot of people would say, well, I've had people say that to me in Mexico. Are you European? I remember a lady in Mexico asked me this question, and I said yes. And she said, what are you doing in Mexico? Almost like she was like, what are you doing here? Like, you need to go to Europe. That's better. Well, in this video, I'm actually gonna go over this in a little second. But it was important for me to share the reason why, I think this way. And I ended up staying in New York for almost 15 years. I graduated with a business degree in New York City. I paid for all of it. I worked really hard. I mean, New York really gave me my personality, I think. Coming from Belgium to New York, that was a big, bold move, and I was by myself, so I had to learn so much along the way. Then I traveled around. I started my full-time travel journey that lasted 5 years. That was from 2019 to 2024. And then I had eyed on Mexico because I had been for 6 months traveling all around Mexico, and I really liked it. So I said to myself, if I ever decide to get a base somewhere, it would be Mexico. I had to move my mics, everybody. I hope you can hear me better. That was terrible. So yeah, I continued to travel, and then I said to myself, you know what? The day I decided to settle, it's gonna be in Mexico. So I came back in 2024. I did my whole residency by myself, and then I was able to get my residency. The first one was the temporary. The first one is 1 year, and then after that you can renew to 3 years and so on. So now I'm in my second year in Mexico, and I still come back to Europe because my family is here and everything is here, right, for me. But everybody's asking me, why don't you move back here? If you left the US, you should be coming back to Europe, right? That's what we're gonna dive in right now in this video. It's very pretty on the countryside. Haven't seen this for in a while. Living in Mexico City now, a city of over 20 million people, and being here in the peace and quiet. Yeah, sometimes I miss this. So we'll talk about it right now. So let's start with the pros and the reason why I love Mexico so much. Number one, and I guess this is the same reason why Americans are flocking to Mexico, and I've made a whole other video on this, is the cost of living. Let's be honest, cost of living is so important. And the reason is not so much because a life that is cheap, this is not my mentality, but more so, and by the way, when I say cheap, I'm talking about versus American lifestyle and how much it costs to live there, but mostly because when your cost of living is lower, you can reinvest in yourself, you can invest in your business, and you can have a better quality of life, which means eating better, which by the way you do eat better in Mexico, but you can invest in healthier products, you can invest in a private trainer at the gym. I have a cleaning lady now. I couldn't afford this when I was in the US. There's so many things I couldn't afford while I was in the US, and now I can afford in Mexico. But I'm not just saving money, I'm reinvesting in my own well-being and in my business, which is so important. You don't understand how many times in the US I had my own business, and every month I struggled. I paid everybody, I paid all my bills, and then I was flat waiting for my next paycheck. And that stress is insane, and I can be more relaxed. So I think this is one of the most important factors. And Europe is very expensive too. I'm not sure if it's quite as expensive as the US, or it's getting there, but a lot of people struggle here, although they have like a social system where they get unemployment, and I can get into all this at a later date, but really the cost of living make a huge difference. Reason number 2 is the weather. Believe it or not, for me it affects me very much. Remember, I grew up here in Europe, so I know winters, and then I spent a long time in New York City, so I do know winter in New York as well. Arizona was better, but it was really hot in summer, but it was much better as far as weather. But when you have a beautiful weather all year round, that's amazing. And in Europe, it's amazing for maybe 4 months out of the year, and the rest is cold. And what happens when it's cold? People are depressed, people are angry, they're stuck in a commute, life is expensive, people are not friendly. And then with the weather, I want to add the fact that the people in Mexico are amazingly friendly. And listen, I'm a woman of color, I know friendly. I mean, you have nice people everywhere in the world, but because going to the West, sometimes white people, whether it's Belgium or US, I've had my share of racism, I talked about it. But in Mexico, I don't feel any different. Of course, people know I'm different, but because I'm brown, I can go by a Latina, and they don't know any better. But either way, they treat everybody the same. You know, wake up in the morning and go to the cafe or walk around, and people would say, Buenos dias, buenas tardes. And I love this. Okay, everybody, we got cut off because my battery was, my storage was full on my camera, so I had to delete some files. But anyways, so what was I saying? I was talking about how lovely the people of Mexico are and how I feel welcome to stay there. We discussed the cost of living. That was perfect for me, especially for someone who is making their money from a westernized country where they can make a bigger, better salary. We talked about the beautiful weather all year long, and we discussed how lovely the people were and how I felt welcome. And I'm gonna add to that cities like Mexico cities, and there's tons of other beautiful cities in Mexico. I've actually done tons of video about them, where there are communities of expats and other nomad travelers and the local communities, depending on where you go. And I actually would highly recommend that if you live in Mexico, to get involved with the local community, not just the foreigners. So that's another plus. You're not gonna feel isolated in Mexico. And then I also love the fact that it's close to the US, because let's face it, I'm also American, and for me, being able to go back to the US to see my friends, or for a training or conference or something like that, I'm only a couple hours flight from Arizona, where I usually go now. So these are the reason why I love Mexico. Now, let's be honest, let's talk about the cons, because there are cons of Mexico's, and also I will tell you at the end of this video why I might still leave Mexico at some point. So the cons of it is the idea of safety. So let me be clear here. I feel very safe in Mexico as long as I'm using my common sense. And I think this is pretty much everywhere. I don't put myself in delicate situation. I pay attention to where I'm going. I don't get trashed out drunk on the street after 2 in the morning. So these are the stuff that I would do anyways in the US or even in Europe. But there is that safety perceptions. Even though I feel safe, sometimes I'm thinking, well, If something happens to me, I'm so far away from my family, and I don't know how that's gonna go, you know? So, yes, US sometimes can be dangerous, so other places, but I feel like there's still a certain sense of justice there that I don't necessarily feel in Mexico. But again, been living there for a few years, nothing ever happened to me. People always have been lovely. I've been careful, and so far so good. But it's still a worry of mine, slight one, right? And then the other thing is the bureaucracy. So this can be challenging as well. Although Mexico, and especially Mexico City, are very modern, and it's always advancing with the technology. I have nothing to say whenever it comes to internet or this and that. But there are a few things, you know, that I'm not quite used to, like running water, drinking water, putting your toilet paper in the trash, and be careful with flushing, and being careful with a lot of things. That's just on the daily basis. But then you also have the bureaucracy, which can get slow and complicated at times. And then my main point is that it's very far away from my family. We got to be honest. I'm almost 10,000 kilometers away from my family. It's far. If anything happens to me, they don't even speak Spanish. They haven't even been to Mexico. So this is a complex situation. And my mom is getting older, so I'm slowly starting to think that at some point I might have to go back to Europe to be closer to them. And also, I left in 2005. That's 20 years. That's a long time that I've missed on birthdays and graduation and this and that. So at some point, you know, consideration of mine. So based on that, let me tell you the pros about Europe, because Europe is good. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff about living in Europe. And also, Europe is big. The north and the south, completely different mindset, different languages, different food, different everything. So let's not put all of Europe in one place as well. First thing I love about Europe is the rich history and culture of Europe. I mean, you can walk around Dublin or London or even Brussels, and you'll find churches that are 600 years old. The culture, the history, all of that is amazing. The food is delicious. I mean, I love that about Europe. And then you can take the train from Paris to Brussels to the UK, fast trains. I mean, the logistics in Europe are on point, internet great. I mean, all of that is amazing. But the main point is the closeness to my family. That would be the main reason why I would consider moving back to Europe. On the con side, though, for Europe, there's so much I don't like. I don't like the bureaucracy. I don't like how strict and rigid it is. It depends again on from country to country, but I mean, countries like Germany, Belgium, France, all of that, they have a very strict, you know, bureaucracy on everything. Like Sunday, you can't make any noises. After 10 p.m., no noise, or they call the cops on you. There's so many things, too long to explain, but I love this flexibility about Mexico. It's free. You can do a lot of things. You know, you would see vendors on the streets early morning selling the tamales, anything from water to gas. And this is always this joie de vivre, like we say in French. And so the bureaucracy of Europe, especially Belgium, it's something that I don't like. And you know, when the weather is bad, like I mentioned, everybody's sad and mad and angry and stuck in commute. I like to be happy, and I don't like to see people being down all the time. The other thing that I don't like about Northern Europe is the cost of living. We discussed this recently. It is not cheap to live here. You will get a small apartment in the middle of nowhere for, I don't know, 800 to 1,000 euros. It's a lot of money compared to medium salary. Although I make my money from somewhere else, it's still like what I can get in Mexico, a 3-bedroom apartment for $800 in the middle of the city center with the garden. I can afford a cleaning lady and delivering services and a trainer and so much more because, you know, the cost of living allows it. So this is the reason why I'm still in Mexico today, and I'm planning to be there for a couple more years. And then when I'll know the time and I'll feel it, I'll be like, well, it's probably time to head back to Europe, but I probably won't be back in Northern Europe. I think I'm more likely gonna be southern part of Europe, between Portugal, Spain, in that area. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you if you also divided like me between 2 continents and you're not sure where you want to settle. And by the way, there's no rules, you know, you could do 6 months in Mexico and 6 months in Europe and be totally fine. So really something that's your heart's desire, and also the proper planning, because this lifestyle is not easy. You have to be very disciplined to be able to understand and manage an online business. But let's face it, it's also amazing. Look at me, I'm here in Europe probably a month, probably two, I don't know, before I decide to go back. And I also have a cat now that I adopted, so I also have to think about that. I've made a whole guide on how to help you start your remote business. It's the Remote Income Roadmap. It's free. Link is in the description. Don't forget to download it. Let me know in the comment what you think of this video. If you feel the same or if you have a different opinion, I read all the comments. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. And this time, I'm not saying bye from Mexico, but bye from the countryside of Belgium. Bye bye! Je suis dans le champ de blé. À la campagne, everybody. Countryside.